You're listening to the Jam Price Show, all about movies. And today I'm so honored to have award-winning entrepreneur and founder and CEO of MoviePass and Mogul, Stacy Spikes. Welcome to the show, Stacy.
Thank you, Jan.
It's a pleasure to finally have you on here. As I was saying before we started, I've been wanting to have you on the show for a long, long time because there's so much to talk to you about. Definitely. Let's,
Oh yeah,
a lot because you've got a lot going on. A lot of people, I'll be honest with you, are not aware that MoviePass has been resurrected again. And
yeah,
so I really
yeah,
want to talk about that story. I know you've probably tired of talking about it, but the documentary MoviePass, Movie Crash really went into it and opened a lot of people's eyes about the
yeah,
story behind the the startup of MoviePass, your baby, that you created with Hamnet Watt,
yeah.
and so let's talk a little bit about the origins of MoviePass.
Sure. So back in 2011, May and I met up, and we knew some of the same people, and we had a lot of passion for kind of reimagining what movie going would be like. And one of the things that we were passionate about was there the possibility to bring the subscription model like Netflix or Spotify to movie going? And there was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of people who didn't believe people go to the movies enough or even care. And we fought and fought. And in 2012, we launched the first iteration, and we kind of crawled on our bellies and created this cult following among movie aficionados. We were the first theatrical subscription service in the US. And one thing led to another. And after about 5 years, we got an acquisition offer. So, as a founder, you either build to sell or maybe you go public. And so it was a great opportunity. And kind of like what the movie talks about, unfortunately the characters, the private equity group that bought it, had nefarious ideas and ways of getting to success. And one of the biggest things was they changed the price point from around 20 to $30 a month to $10 a month. And it was like, that's less than a movie ticket. How are you going to survive? And we
Right.
pushed forward with the knowledge of, guys, that's not sustainable. And they kind of said, we bought you, you didn't buy us, and thank you for your service. They let Hame and I go, and then they kind of sailed off into the sunset, and imploded. We built the largest of its kind. It got up to about 3 million users, and then they couldn't maintain it because it was too cheap, and they went bankrupt. And then COVID happened, and after that, I said, the idea was too good to die, and I bought the company back and relaunched it in 2023. And we had a profitable year in 23, a profitable year in 24, and we're just finishing with our best year yet.
Wow.
And now we have new things that we're starting to push towards. So that's kind of the rise, fall, and rise of Movie Pass.
It's like the rise of the phoenix, out of the
Yeah,
ashes. How was it? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I
yeah,
was at Sundance in
yeah,
2018 at
yeah,
that
yeah.
Deer
Party.
Valley home, that mansion
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
rented during Sundance, and that's when they announced the Movie Pass Ventures that they were going to do. And I
Hmm,
met
hmm.
Ted Farnsworth and Mitch Lowe and
Yeah,
all of that. And then for you though, to have take your baby that you birthed
yeah, 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 yeah,
and that, you had to step away from it or asked to step away from it
yeah, yeah.
uh, and then watch it crash and burn. I mean, what was
Yeah.
that like for you to go through that experience?
I mean, it's bittersweet. On one side, you get to say, I told you so. But on the other side, you watch something that took you 10 years to build, go up in flames. And so it was very annoying because the solution, we saw it when Disney launched Disney Plus, they launched at a cheaper price point, but when they figured the math, they put the price where the business would work. So it was an easy fix. It wasn't something that complicated. You knew where today most subscription services are around 25 to $30. And so we knew we were priced at the right point. Um, and I think if you just adjusted that, we would, it would be a totally different story. So it was bittersweet, kind of I told you so, but the gods saw that there was an opportunity to get it back and start over again. And so I'm really grateful for that. You rarely can get, I think it's happened two or three times where, Steve Jobs and Apple or Michael Dell and Dell Computers, where that American story where the original founder is able to come back to the helm. So I'm thrilled and honored to be able to do that.
It is it's Horatio Alger story basically.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And it's a wonderful story, and that's why everybody you should seek out if you haven't seeked out. I've definitely met. I think you should see Movie Pass, Movie Crash. I think it's streaming
yeah.
on Max or
HBO. Yeah, it's
HBO.
on Max or whatever it's called now.
I know. I know and that's had many
This week.
iterations also, and will
Yeah,
continue to. It looks like anyhow. So with I mean, okay, the pandemic changed the movie scene, and
yeah,
unfortunately, movie theaters haven't been able to recover to the same level
yeah.
they had, and prior to the pandemic 5 or 6 years ago now. Um, how has MoviePass done in this time period where people are not going to the movies as much as they once did, unfortunately?
So one of the blessings that we have is we sit really close to the data, and there's a bigger story that is not being told. The bigger story is the 50 plus people haven't truly returned. But what the exciting story is young people who grew up with Netflix, not those of us old enough to remember it coming to birth, but those who grew up with Netflix, like it's this weird thing like the rise of use of vinyl or in IRL experiences. There's now a credibility with wanting to experience things in the real world. And you see, we've never seen as many international releases. You've never seen as many concert films. I'll give you a perfect example. It used to be you would have Pink Floyd would do a tour or Depeche Mode or whomever. And then 2 or 3 years later, somewhere in between this tour and that tour, they drop a concert film years after and years before something else. Now you're seeing, Taylor Swift and Beyonce drop it during the tour as an extension of the tour themselves. And so concert venues, what a lot of people don't realize is they're comparing streaming, which is television, to a live event, which is more like the concert business of the music industry. And so they're not the same thing. Seeing a movie in IMAX with a room full of people is not watching it on your phone. And so the story to me is if you look at the back end of the bubble, there's a huge generation of young people who are digging this experience and the premium formatting and the directors like Christopher Nolan and movies like Sinners. So that's not part of the story. Everybody kind of just reports the gross number. But if you look at the wave that's coming, they're setting attendance records. We had a breaking number with the highest grossing animation film with Ni Zhao. We had Ni Zhao 2. We had Japan break all time records with Godzilla, Zero Minus One. We saw Bollywood records. We never had these, and they're out of season. You're seeing what horror used to be a genre that used to play in October only for Halloween. You also are seeing faith-based, like David doing 25 million at the box office. So no one talks about that part of the story, which if you get close enough to the data, you prune the trees that aren't coming back, and there's a big tsunami coming behind it, and that's what we're excited about.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's, I really love hearing that, because there's always this death knell, that you
Oh,
read about,
oh yeah.
And today, in fact, the CEO, Michael O'Leary of Cinema United,
Hmm.
just went to the House Judiciary Subcommittee to talk about blocking Netflix and
Yeah,
Paramount buying Warner Brothers, So
yeah,
that's a whole
yeah,
interesting, another discussion we can
yeah,
get into, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I think hopefully Netflix, and I heard Ted Sarando say this. I did interview him once on the red carpet. He said this over in Europe that it makes sense for them to have a theatrical a longer theatrical release of films.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm sure I'm like many other people. When you see Frankenstein is coming out and you want to go, and then you say, oh, in 2 weeks it's going to be on
Yeah,
Netflix. Well, I already
yeah,
pay for
yeah,
Netflix, so I
yeah,
might as well
yeah,
just watch it at home,
yeah.
which I did. And then I
Hmm.
regretted I did not see it in the movie
Hmm.
theater because it's an amazingly
It's
beautiful
beautiful
film.
film. Yeah,
Beautiful film. And I
yeah,
was like, I wish I had seen this in the movie theater. Same thing with Train Dreams.
yep,
So another beautiful film that I
yeah.
didn't go to because I could
Hmm.
watch it. So and afterwards it's no longer in the theater. But I think if Netflix is smart, if they'll take the model of F1 this year.
Yes,
It had
yeah,
a longer theatrical,
yeah,
at least a 60-day, if not longer, and it came back again in IMAX, and
yeah.
extended the life. And they didn't, and that's when I did see in the
That's
movie
right.
theater. And
That's
then they
right.
didn't release it on Apple until
That's
mid-December.
right.
So it
That's
gave
right.
it many months and gave it life, and it made over $550 million.
That's
So
right.
that's a
Brad
nice
Pitt's
piece of,
highest grossing film of his career.
yeah, a
Yeah.
great piece of,
Yep.
revenue to come in. So
Yeah.
if they're smart,
Yep.
they won't cut off the movie theaters,
That's right.
because it's so important. And I said to Gavin, I said, my mantra is movies should be seen in the movie theaters. That communal
Well, we
experience.
have an additional saying is adventure should never come with a pause button. And one of the things that's beautiful about the experience is you can't be distracted. You can't press pause. You can't take a phone call. You have something that is holding your undivided attention where you don't even want to run to the bathroom.
Right.
And that is a different mindset. I call it the Netflix test. And sometimes I get in trouble for this, but I say to people, I want you to think of 10 directors, movie directors that their films play in theaters. And people say Spike Lee, Christopher Nolan, Catherine Bigelow, Ava DuVernay, Ryan Coogler, and people can name 10 people. I said, I want you to name 10 streaming directors that only stream. And it's very hard to come up with names. And the reason is it is an event and a spectacle. And if you are a director and you want a longer career, it's why you see people who do television fighting so hard to get to cinema because it's a different experience. Just like going to see Denzel when he does Broadway, the rarity of it makes it more special, which makes your relationship to these artists more powerful. And I say, did you ever get to see Prince live? Did you ever get to, see the Rolling Stones or Jimi Hendrix or Taylor Swift? When you were there, you have a totally different body experience, and that can't be replaced. And so, the live event is different than television, even if the television fits in your pocket. It's not the same thing.
No, and I can't imagine watching a movie on an iPhone. Just cannot.
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
a flat screen TV that's,
yeah,
pretty big, but even
yeah.
then, it's like, it's not like that.
I have Apple VR Vision Pro, and I can watch it in my house on my headset with IMAX level. It's still not the same, you know.
Not the same. Not the same.
Yeah.
No. I have a dear friend who does all of the IMAX camera work for Christopher Nolan, and he did
Oh,
Sinners. He
yeah.
he
Oh, yeah.
he did
Yeah.
Sinners, and he was leaving. We got together. I don't know when he was leaving, and going to do Sinners in New Orleans, and it was a
Yeah.
top secret. Couldn't
Yeah.
talk about it. Top
Yeah.
secret,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he's been on the show. We had him. I had him on the show to talk about Oppenheimer when that came out and
Yeah.
doing the camera work for that. But it's fascinating, that
Yeah.
how you again the IMAX that's coming back.
That's
It's
right.
making
That's
a
right.
big headway again, and we need to have more IMAX theaters too. So I had the pleasure.
60% of sales now is premium large format. That means we're paying more for bigger experiences, which what does that say? That says they want the spectacle. We want
Right.
sit in that, have the lights go down and sit in that room full of a lot of people. It's why no one ever says, okay, football games are on, you can watch them on your phone. No one says we're going to stop building stadiums and no one's going to go
Right.
because everybody understands. And it's the same thing. I just think the narrative, we've seen the story of cinemas going to go away 5 times. We saw it with television. In 1950, the number of television screens surpassed the number of movie theater screens. We saw it with VHS. We saw it with DVD and Laserdisc. We saw it with digital. We saw it with streaming. Everyone says, it's it. It's it. It's over. Days are gone. And yet, the same thing with Broadway. All of these formats don't reduce people going to see it in Broadway. It actually expanded. The Lion King and other IP has gotten legs that you wouldn't have seen it. Um, and it introduced, that type of format to generations that didn't grow up with it. It's not like opera, which, you know, has a decline. It's in a language a lot of people don't understand. But Broadway gets these IP vehicles that I saw the movie. Here's Wicked, let's bring it to theaters. Here's Fences, let's bring it to Broadway or to theaters. And
Right.
these way the IP go back and forth is really powerful.
And I think people gotta have to get out of their houses.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
yeah.
can-
Do you know people don't realize movie going is the number one outer home entertainment activity in the world? More, 10 times more than sporting events combined, all.
I
And
agree.
that's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge.
It is huge, and I
Yeah,
totally agree. That's when let's go to a movie and let's go to dinner. I mean, that's still
that's
what you
right.
still go do,
That's right.
you know.
That's right.
And it makes event. Well, speaking of football,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
segue
Nice
in.
segue there.
Uh, since you
But
brought up football, let's segue
right.
into your new baby that you're
Yeah.
birthing now, called Mogul. So
Yeah.
tell the audience about Mogul and what you're doing because you just launched this, or you're in the process of launching it.
Yeah.
So
So one of the things we looked at was we our motto is we movie passes for movie people, and we're in the business of movie going. We aren't a theater, so we're not movie showing. We're not a studio, so we don't create content. We're that glue in between that says, how do we help make it easier, reduce friction, and make wanting to go see movies in theaters more exciting? How do you put more butts in seats?
right.
So that's always what we think about. Cheaper, better, faster, and what creates greater engagement. And so we kind of, 60% of movie theaters now have some copied version of MoviePass, right? They have some subscription service. And we said, so what's our next station? If we've kind of introduced something everyone said no one would ever do or like or love, and there's now millions of people who sign up for MoviePass or A-List or Regal Crown Club or Cinemark's Pro. So everybody, Alamo has one, everybody has one.
Hmm.
So we said, what do sports fans have that they're able to do? And when you look at FanDuel and DraftKings and all of this what they call speculative entertainment, where you're trying to predict outcomes or you're trying to calculate what's going to happen. And we said, well, why doesn't the movie industry have that? Movie fans are very much like sports fans. When you see people dressing up when they're going to a soccer match and they have their war paint on in the middle of winter, where their bodies are painted, you can go to any anime film or Wicked and you're going to see people in cosplay. I saw, hundreds of little girls showing up to Taylor Swift bedazzled out, and so the behavior is there for both. And we realize there's a really big speculative market for sports. Why not have that for movies? And so, Mogul, the idea is you're a studio head. You get to pick your movies and your actors and your directors, and you have a salary cap, and you can pick what you think is going to be successful and compete against other movie fans. And what they found in the sports industry is fantasy players watch and go to games 75% more than other people. So we said, great, if you can introduce that kind of logic for the movie industry, it's only another thing that helps create better engagement. And so that's what Mogul is. We've launched it in beta. Um, it's worldwide, so people are playing. There's several thousand people playing it right now, and the goal is to it's play money at the moment, but the goal is to eventually have real money. And some people say, well, is that gambling? So in the US, they determined that there's games of chance, which is you have no knowledge. You go buy a lottery ticket, you put money on a horse, you need no knowledge. That's a game of chance. Game of skill is if we had a spelling bee or a chess tournament or something that requires knowledge and skill, that and everybody put their money in and the winner takes home the prize. That's games of chance. And
Hmm.
so daily fantasy sports is a game of chance, not a game of skill. I'm sorry, a game of skill, not a game of chance.
Hmm.
And that is why it's not considered gambling per se. So often people ask that, and I try and clarify the difference.
It sounds really, it sounds like a lot of fun. So do you want to explain a little bit? People become a movie mogul, basically.
Yeah, so you go in, you name your studio,
Mhm.
and you get $1 million. And let's say I'm rounding this off, but movies are 100,000, and actors are say 25,000, directors are say 25,000, and then your portfolio is performing the way the real world works. So depending upon how many screens the film is released on, it's a blockbuster, middle tier, or an indie. And we give each of those tiers a negative cost. So let's say I pick Wicked 2, and Wicked 2 is going to release on 3,000 screens, and it makes $500 million. You pick Hamlet, and Hamlet is going to release on 500 screens. It's going to have an Oscar campaign, but its negative cost is going to cost less. So it's more about the margin that film does at its level. So if Wicked cost 200 million to make, but it made 400 million, then I 2x my money. But if Hamnet cost 10 million to make, but it made $100 million, then I 10x my money. So it's net performance, not gross performance. And that's really how studios work. And so we let you become a studio head, and at the end of the season, whoever's the winners are take prizes. So that's how it works.
It sounds like a lot of fun for those
Yeah,
who love movies.
yeah, yeah. And it lets you test your knowledge, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like it definitely would test you. You have to test your knowledge
Yeah,
for it. And in now, as we're heading into the Oscar season,
yeah.
it's even more exciting to do that. So, how do people get involved with Mogul?
You can go to mogulgame.moviepass.com and just go there and you can join, create your own studio and start playing and get your experience down. And every Monday and Thursday we actually host a show that's 20 minutes long that we talk about buy, hold, sell, what actors are hot. And so you can watch the show and you can go on YouTube and pull them up, but it gives you some knowledge into how it would work. But it's pretty straightforward. It's like Monopoly in a way. It's a pretty straightforward game once you think about it.
And it's another thing to stretch your mind, to work your mind, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
More and more things are coming out. Well, as you're getting older, you need to be doing more things using your brain so you don't get Alzheimer's and dementia and things like that. So this is a wonderful way for movie lovers to utilize their, gray matter a little
It's
bit.
it's it's also that thing of that Monday morning quarterback, like, what did they make that stupid film for? Blah, blah, blah. And there's times where everybody says this film is gonna bomb. Like Roblox movie, people counted it out, but it became a meme when Jack Black said, "I am Steve," and people were throwing their popcorn in the theaters. And but the critics said that was going to be a bomb. And then there's times where the critics say, "Oh, this film's going to make a bunch of money," and it doesn't. So you're not only reading, you can't rely on just what the critics say. You have to read more into it than that, and it really does test your knowledge about the marketplace, what's hot, what's not, who's going to perform, and that's where the skill comes in.
Yeah, again, it sounds like a lot of fun. I years ago when I studied film in New York, our my professor said, do not read reviews. So I don't read reviews. I
No,
like to actually go into movies almost completely
that's
cold,
right.
not
That's
knowing
right.
really what I'm going for, other than I know I love that star or I love that director
Yeah,
or whatever. And you've
yeah,
read, obviously read a little bit
yeah,
about things. And
yeah,
then I'll read reviews afterwards. And then
yeah.
I'll go, did they see the same movie I saw?
Right,
You know,
right,
I mean,
right.
whether they liked it, and I went like, what did they see in that movie? Or the opposite, like, I love that movie, and they were
Right.
like panning it. So
Oh
don't
yeah,
read reviews, everybody.
that's right. And what one person thinks, there's another thing that I think, and I've been thinking about writing a book about watching movies.
Hmm.
There's also, you'll see critics, they'll go early in the middle of the day, or they'll have a private screening that they'll go into. And one of the things, so I'll give you a perfect example. Someone talked about Snow White. I'm not saying whether it was great or not, but this person was tearing it apart. Worst film, terrible. Disney's woke. What, everybody lost their mind. Horrible film. So I went to see it, and I went at 11 o'clock in the morning, and the screening I was at was filled with kids, with little kids, because it was before their nap time and stuff. And I remember there's a part where Snow White's about to bite the apple. And this little girl goes, "Mommy, tell her don't bite the apple. Don't bite the apple." And the whole theater like cracked up. And I tell people where you go see a movie and what the audience makeup is. If you went to see that film at Times Square on Friday night at 7 or 8 p.m., it's going to be a harsh crowd. But if you go see it with little kids in the audience, it's
Mhm.
a totally different experience. And they loved it. They loved seeing the seven dwarfs whistle while they work and all that. They loved it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think. I remember when I saw K-pop Demon Hunters, it was packed with girls who knew every word to every song. And I was like, what is this? So I think sometimes critics get into themselves and
Right.
they yes, they're doing their job and saving people time if it's not something great, but sometimes the audiences are different and they take it differently. Like, I'm not a big romantic comedy guy, but
I
some people love it.
I am for sure.
Yeah.
Stacey, I would love to talk to you more, but our time has run out. Unfortunately, I'll have to
Yeah,
have you back on the show. It's always great.
absolutely.
I love talking about movies.
Oh yeah.
That's why I love what
Well,
I
you
do.
got the right podcast for it.
Thank you. That's why I love what I do. I do. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Give us that website again for Mogul.
Sure. Mogulgame.moviepass.com.
Great. Everybody seek that
Yeah.
out. We'll put it in our social media postings too. So we'll definitely do that too. Thank you so much and Happy New Year. I hope it's a wonderful year
You
for you.
too. Thank you
And
so much for having me.
thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Enjoy.
You too. Bye
Thanks.
bye.
Bye bye.